school. I mean, that.
Okay. Well, we're going to let you start now, okay?
Okay.
Start with your name.
Just, you're going to look at her the entire time.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll be a pleasure.
Well, thank you.
Yes, I'm Elmer Lee Golden. My parents were James Golden and Bertie Golden, just B-E-R-T-I-E. Well, my last name is G-O-L-D-E-N. And I was born here in Port Union on a little house right before you get to the creek. You're heading toward Route 4. And we rented it from a German lady. Her name's Lena Berline. And she lived in one room with the house, and we had the rest of it. And our rent was $9 a month. And it seemed, really cheap. It was hard then because my father worked right here on the railroad, up in this road section. And they put him down 3 days a week. And they didn't pay him much to begin with, and 3 days a week made it even worse. But we never were on, they called it relief back in those days instead of welfare and all that kind of stuff. But we never were on that. We always got by, barely. And we had a local school the other way, about a mile or so away, and we walked to it. And I went the first year and the second year. And after that, we lived just across a certain line that the school board drew. And I had to be transferred to Westchester then, like on a bus then. And anyway, we moved down halfway between here and Rialto at that time. So I caught the bus from there, went to Westchester from then on. But they kept the school open for a while after that, but it closed altogether. And well, I'll tell you about my early days. I had a paper route. I had a monopoly on all of them. There was the Cincinnati Times-Star at the time. It was the evening paper, and also the Cincinnati Post and the Hamilton Journal. I saw all three of them, and I went pretty far each way. I'd go this way, I'd go as far as Shepherd's. I remember that. They were big-time farmers. And I'd go up this way as far as McCormick's, and I'd go through Rialto and past that. And then I'd go to, let's see. I guess that's all the directions around here, but I covered it all, though. Never missed a day, I'll say. They used to throw my papers off. Hamilton Journal would come by train. Now, I'd be up there about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'd throw the journal off that I'm wrapped in real heavy newsprint that they use when they make the newspapers. It's real tough stuff. They were wrapped in that. All the papers were tied, and then they would throw them off. And sometimes the weeds were so high up there that I remember one time I couldn't find them. Everybody was mad. They were all customers. They thought I should go back in and look for. But and there used to be a house back up here. Is there still a house back this way? No, did it really? Yeah, they were one of my customers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Their last name was Craig, I think. C-R-A-I-G. And there was, so up here a little ways, there was sort of like little locks from the canal or something. We called it Eckery Lock or something like that. And we used to go there all the time. It was sort of primitive. There were snakes and turtles and all kinds of stuff up there. And that was one of the places. And I used to run around with Richard Gunter. They lived in the far end of Rialto. They didn't live in one of the boxes. They had their own house. And we went to school together, and he was 1 year older than me. And we ran around together all the time, though. And for recreation, we had a rifle. And the lady that owned the grocery store here, Mrs. Ely, her husband was Freddie. He was postman, and also they had a grocery store. And she hired me. She raised martins and bird houses. She hired me to sit there with my little rifle and shoot sparrows. So they wouldn't bother her martins. And the Elys were a big family in town. They had the most money and everything like that. And he used to give you lots of advice, and he would say, don't quit working until you save $50,000, then you can retire.
Oh, really?
And he was a Chrysler enthusiast. He didn't like Fords. He admitted they were faster, but he said, if I want a race car, I'll go buy a race car.
How did you deliver your papers?
Bicycle. And I can remember once down here riding on slick ice and hit a slick place right down here, just a little ways, in here in the railroad. And the back of my head hit the road real hard. What days and days. I had all the papers in his bag, you know. Yeah. And I can remember it being so cold sometimes I have to walk backwards into the wind. Yeah, I'm way below zero.
What do you remember about the canal?
The canal was never used as a canal while I was still about it. But there was a big ditch there and everything, and they came along with construction equipment, and they put in big water pipes about this high, concrete sections, you know. Mm-hmm. They dug a trench all the way from Hamilton to General Electric. That was what it was called Wrights. And they were, Hamilton was supply their water. And I remember very well putting out all those tiles in. After they had a lot of men, there were still some open spaces, and we used to go in them. They were real big, about this high. We would go for looks like a mile or more up in them, and it was real damp in there, and I got pneumonia and missed about, I got tuberculosis and pneumonia and something else together, and I missed about a couple months of that school year. I think it was my senior year, I believe. But anyway, I still graduated. And here's another interesting thing. Between my junior and senior year, I worked on this railroad station gang with my father. Well, it wasn't supposed to, but I wasn't quite old enough. I did. And they found out about it. They were going to let me go anyway. But by that time, it was time to start senior year in school, so it just worked out great. And I made, to me, it was quite a bit of money then. It was, I think, 50 cents an hour or something like that.
Wow. When's your birthday?
November 12th. That's why I could start school. You can't do this anymore. But I started when I was still 5. Then I turned 6 in that same year, November.
What
So,
year?
well, let's see. I was born in 25. Actually, it was almost 26 when I was born. It would be 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I guess it would be 1930 when I started. And we had a one-room schoolhouse. And I remember the new teacher, she came from some other part of Ohio. Sugar Tree Ridge, I think she was the name of it. Some Adams County, I believe. Her name was Miss Malott. She taught all 8 grades, all of us in the same room. We've got 2 or 3 first graders, 2 or 3 second graders, and so forth, all the way to including the 8th grade. And she done a really good job. I used to read library books. I loved them. And I missed one word one time in a spelling test. And she put me on hold and wouldn't let me read any library book for many weeks. And that was that's the only stupid thing she ever done. And every time I'd go up about once a week and ask if I could read library books, no, she still had so many more weeks left.
How did you get library books?
They were there at the school.
Oh, okay. So
They
it
had
wasn't a library like...
No, this is what they had in stock there. And I would read one after another as fast as I could get them. But she was an excellent teacher, though. I mean, she taught us how to sound out words and everything like that. And
What was the population like in Fort Union when you were growing up?
I would say it was about 80-some people. There was no businesses except, I told you about when they finally started service station, but before that, there was nothing. The Oddfellows Hall, the only thing, and the church, and Ely's grocery store. And this place was here. It was ran by Bill Nutsky. And it was dry when he had it partly. And I was just old enough to remember when everybody was saying, beer's going to be legal again. And I heard all the neighbors talking about that. I didn't even know what they were talking about. But I guess that was after Roosevelt was elected. It was in 1932 when beer came back. And everybody was happy. Or most people were.
Do you know anybody that frequented the Oddfellows Hall?
My dad didn't, so I didn't know. There was one guy, I think it was Archie Owens, I believe was his name. I think he was one of the officials of it. But I didn't know any of them personally. Oh, they used to have a blacksmith shop, too. Yeah, it was right, if you turn right, and it'd be right there on the left. There was a blacksmith there for a long time. And then a family from Indiana named Schutz bought it. And I don't know what kind of business they had, but it was no more blacksmith shop. And then one of the local kids married their daughter, Mel Arnold, the one that lives right down here. And they're the ones that bought our house and made this truck repair place. I'm trying to think of, see.
We understand that going through books that the Oddfellows Hall used to have like oyster fries and things like that. Did you ever attend any of those?
No, I don't remember hardly anything about it.
No.
I used to go to that church, though.
Yeah, that's my next question.
Yeah, and but after that, I quit and never went to church anymore until just very, very recently.
Yes.
And now I'm a Mormon.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about the church that you went to.
Okay.
Your family go?
My mother didn't. Once in a while, my father would go, and they would sing. They would have sometimes entertainment there. I remember somebody up on the hill. I can't remember what it was. Might have been one of the Brambles. Came down here with his guitar and sang "Home on the Range." I thought it was great at that time. I like to think cowboys type stuff, and I can remember that very well. And well, let's see. And I remember when the Fox paper mill burned. We had to park a long ways off, and parents walked to it, left us in the car. And we were scared to death. We were a long ways from it. We could still feel heat from it, you know. They knew we were safe, but us kids was really scared, though. I mean, it was a monstrous fire.
How did it start? Did anyone know?
Never did hear how it started. And some of my relations ran a boarding house for him, one of those houses in Spectre. People would, here's how they did it back in those days. The people worked shift work would come in, they'd take somebody else's bed when they got up and go to work. And they just rotated all the time, 3 shifts. And when it burned down, I can remember people telling about them throwing mattresses out the window trying to save what they could, you know. And that was the most exciting thing I ever had around here. It wasn't pleasure or anything.
Well, you didn't have a fire department, right?
No. There's none. I don't know where. I guess it was fire probably came somewhere, but I don't know where. I don't even know where the closest would have been. Possibly Glendale.
Wow.
Or maybe in Hamilton, I don't know. But they didn't do much to contain it, though, because it burned everything.
Was anybody killed?
No, I don't think anybody even injured. Just a lot of rats. It was famous for that. Was that paper? Yeah, they were there. All those people live in those Fox River Company houses had rats. They were everywhere. And they used to be our playground over there after it burned. We still used one building for storage. They had big rolls of paper. We'd get real high up, about 15 feet above the paper, and jump and sail through the air and land on nice soft paper. That was our entertainment. And oh yeah, we had a very interesting bus driver. His name was John Martinet. He lived in Rialto, right by the railroad track. He had a store too, with soap pop and everything like that, groceries and everything. And there was one family named Beavers that lived in one of the houses. And this one, Bill Beaver, he always caused a lot of trouble. And John Martinet would, every once in a while, he'd stop the school bus, come back, and start pounding on him or something, or yelling at him. Our school bus was famous for pulling into Westchester. All the rest of them were nice and orderly, and ours would have kids hanging out the windows yelling. And in those days, if somebody caused trouble on a bus, they would stop the bus, and they could put you off and make you walk home, which they would never do today. They would put you off right there and maybe even ban you from back on for a certain length of time.
Did any houses burn down with a paper mill?
I don't think they did, no.
Okay.
No, I think.
The basics of the paper mill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And nobody ever painted the houses after that. They went for many, many years, just not a bit of paint on it, just that old ramshackle look to them, you know. And finally they tore them down. Well, there's one, Richard Seward, he bought the whole city. He bought all Rialto, and they've got two real nice houses down there now. I guess they're selling lot by lot. But all the paper mill houses are gone. And there was one family that lived in the very first one. It was better than the rest of them. And there was a whole house complete in itself. That's where Smith lived. Ed Smith, and I forget what the lady's name was, but she used to come up here all the time, and she drank Coke like other people drink beer, and she had prematurely gray hair, and everybody said that's what gave her gray hair, was drinking so much Coke. But all the rest of the houses were half and half. One family lived on one side, and another family lived on the other. I can remember every single one of them out there. Right next to Smith was Beavers, that's where they lived, and then, let's see, and Browns and Moores, they moved from Iowa to here. They had a bunch of kids too. Then Hammonds were a pretty famous family. They'd been here all the long time. And Haygoods, then Stewart's lived in the very last house. Well, it was a private house too, complete in itself.
Still there.
Mm-hmm.
Big house.
And
Do you ever travel by railroad?
yes, since Dad worked on the railroad, we'd get a free pass, and we'd go to Tennessee almost every year on that.
Wow.
And that was one of the few things few perks that the railroad company gave. They didn't give anybody anything if they didn't have to. And they didn't even want to do that. But that was one of the good things. And I remember how exciting that was to get on the train and ride down to Kentucky and into Tennessee, into Knoxville. It was great.
Did you ever lie down to Cincinnati shop? Or?
Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hamilton was
the county seat.
Yes. Well, I used to ride our next door neighbor, Arnold's. He had a milk route where he'd go around with a truck to pick up at farmer's place, pick up their milk in 10-gallon cans, aluminum cans. At that time, all around here, there was, every farm had a real long lane. It was very rough, and just up and down, and big rocks sticking out of it, and the truck had a hard time getting back there. And they'd put the milk in a spring house, they call it, call it cold water, to try to keep it the milk from sour. Then you pick it up, and he would take it all the way to Cincinnati, and I'd ride with him once in a while. And they'd open up each hand and smell it. If it was sour, they'd throw it out. If it was good, then it'd keep. And that was
Where'd the milk go to from there?
from here.
Yeah.
That's what went to down French Bar was the name of the company. It was all the way down to Cincinnati, and that was a long, long ways. Like in those days, with the roads that we had, and that was always exciting. When he'd let me go with him, he'd always buy me ice cream. Well, we had ice cream with him, all kinds of dairy stuff with him. He'd give me ice cream and everything, and I thought that was great.
That was great.
And the Arnolds were very mechanical. They were mature for their age. They had to drive tractors and all that kind of stuff. They had about, how many acres Arnolds had? I think they had about 60. And they used to farm it. And we used to get their trucks and tractors. And I remember one day we chopped a thorn tree down. We chopped it practically down, and then we tied a rope, a lasso or rope around it, and tied it to their truck, and then pulled it down the rest of the way. And we built a little house underneath the ground, which you had to crawl into. And they said they saw foot tracks. They thought them hobo used to come over and sleep in it.
Where was the little house you built?
It was down between Arnold's house and the railroad, down close to the railroad. So hobos could have thought. And another exciting thing was down below Rialto. There was a house, an abandoned house, and it had a little bridge went across to it. We used to go in there all the time, and kids carry guns, and they would always think they were going to find some hobo in there or something like that. They thought it would be, they'd try to do something to them, but it wouldn't, But this one kid would shoot through the door first before they went in a room. But it was really a nice, something to do. Exciting for us. Like, I'm sorry what I've done. Well, let's see now. I hope you have more good questions. I'm remembering all this stuff now that I wouldn't have thought of otherwise. shots at bats, which was a bad thing to do.
Slingshots bass.
Yeah, they'd be flying around. We'd try to hit them with,
Really?
yeah.
They had real exciting.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it. Where was your house?
Our house was on Port Union and turn to the right there where Jackman's carryout is.
Right.
And just go right before you get to the creek on the right. There'd be a little house right before you get to the creek. That was ours. That was the one owned by a German lady.
We
And she-
covered all that.
Okay.
The rent,
You still want to move over there because you're looking at me.
Oh, I wish I could think of something else. Beautiful. Like another Serrato, you could ride bicycles. You'd see red-winged blackbirds every day, robins, redbirds, even bluebirds occasionally. Of course, all that is completely gone now.
As a boy, do you, there's no doubt, unlike probably when my boys would enjoy now, you were on your bikes all the time,
Yes.
on foot, walking around. What was your bike like?
I can remember that. I got a used bicycle for Christmas that I had to stay in my life. It's just a plain old bicycle. It's hand-painted blue, you can tell. But to me, it was the greatest thing that ever was. I just lived on it.
And how old would you have been when you
I think I was 12 when I got it. And I rode it to school sometimes. And just every place. I mean, that's no matter how far it was or anything. And Richard Gundler, who was the one around there with, he had a bicycle. He was the same way.
were? Who was your buddy?
Richard Gundler. They lived in Rialto, just where that swimming, they have swimming pool there now. His wife owned it. And she sold it recently, though, to some truck driver.
Did you, how did you get your bike? Did your parents get it for you?
Yes, for
or
Christmas,
You know where they would have got your bike?
Yes, I can remember that exactly. It was my most exciting place to go in. It was called Hirschberg's in Hamilton. I've been on South 3rd Street. I used to love to go in there and just, the bicycle tires would just fill up with an aroma. I couldn't afford a new bicycle, but I just loved going there, though. And I remember it very, very well.
So that would have been quite a treat your parents getting you that bike.
Oh, was it ever?
Do you know how much they paid for it?
Probably $10 or something like that. Even that would have been a lot. It might have been less than that. It might have been $5. I can't remember, but
And probably as a 12-year-old boy, it gave you all kinds of independence.
Yes.
You were on the road and you were...
oh, I couldn't wait till spring to come.
Bad. And where did you go to school?
At the first 2 years, I here in Port Union.
Okay.
And we lived in when they drew a different diagram for what district you were in. We were just barely in the district to go to Westchester instead of Port Union, so I had to leave and started a big school, which was really something to me to go.
Now, there was a Union school?
Oh yeah, right up, straight up the hill,
Okay.
on the right, a brick building. And we had, I was telling her, we had one teacher that taught 8 grades simultaneously.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
And then going to Westchester, it was like going to the big school.
Oh, it was. Yeah, I mean, it sounds small now. There was 30 in each class, about 33 or something like that. And here it was about 4, 5, 3 or something like that, according to what grade you were in.
Did they close the school? That's why you moved? or-
No, not right away. They kept it open after I started Westchester for a few more years. Then they closed it.
Was it because of your age that you started going to Westchester?
No,
Was it
because of where our house was. It was just across a certain line that they had to go to Westchester. They were consolidating everything, though. Then they closed it completely right after that.
We're talking about the canal. Did you talk about, you saw canal boats? And
Well, no, they weren't using it as a canal at any time.
they remember.
No, but they did tear it up. I was told about sorry to put in a big water line for the right aeronautical down there. The water came from Hamilton to there, and that was exciting. All those cranes out there, and I can remember some real rich people living up at the top of the hill. I can't remember what their name was. They had horses, and they.
More line?
I don't think so. I can't remember. There wasn't more lines. I don't think they're the only ones that were really rich. Seemed like to us. They would ride their horse around that circle sometimes. And I remember saying to them, we'd always say, "Give me the horse," but they got tired of eating that.
Sorry, it was like we're probably repeating things. What did your parents do?
My father worked on the railroad section. And just tell her we never went on leave at all. We managed, even though we only worked 3 days a week, during the worst of the depression, the railroads practically stopped 3 days a week was all. I can remember we just had to buy certain books, and my mother would say, tell her that he's only working 3 days a week, and of course everybody had a hard time buying the necessities then.
Did, a lot of the families had to go on public assistance or relief?
There were some, right here in Port Union, some on it, but I can't remember. I remember the one that was really lucky was Ben Henry, who lived right next door to us. He worked for Ford up in Hamilton, and that's when Ford came out and was going to pay, did pay, started out $5 a day, and that made newspapers all over the country, because that was, I mean, you had a lot if you had worked at Ford, and everybody, and if you worked there, you couldn't drive anything but a Ford, because when he first got a job, he had a Chevrolet, and they told him to get rid of the Chevrolet and buy a Ford. and also, when they lay off people from Ford, I think he could be a foreman, then he could have the people that were laid off to come and paint his garage or do some kind of work like that in order to help them get called back. They didn't go by strict union rules like we would today. And the foremen, they had a big advantage. They could take advantage of it that way, you know.
And did you talk about the Oddfellows?
Yeah, I don't know. I remember being old, but I remember very little about it. The only thing I remember is sort of mysterious and stuff like that.
Because I think they helped people out a lot during the Depression in terms of providing some relief and
Yeah, it could have. I wasn't
think
reading.
you're not familiar with that.
But I can remember Ely's letting everybody charge groceries unlimited.
Charge groceries?
Yeah, and they helped a lot too. Now I hope they got paid back in the end. I don't know. But we always paid for ours. I don't think we had to charge anything at all. Some people just ran an indefinite bill, you know. And I won't mention any names because I'm not even sure who done, but some did.
Was there a feeling during the Depression, during the time of community? I mean, did people kind of pull together and try to help each other out as much as they could? Or was it really a matter of people didn't want anybody to know if they were going to have to get leave or that kind of thing?
I can't remember being any community, any kind of thing to try to get people to cooperate. But everybody just did the best they could. And, oh, yeah, I know. Here's another important thing. Hobos were you saw them all the time. I mean, especially in here close to the railroad, and they would come around and want a sandwich or something like that. And I liked them, too. And every time we'd go someplace in the car, we'd stop at a railroad crossing and a freight train go by. I'd sit there looking at every boxcar when I see a hobo.
Probably get some pretty good stories from some of them, I think.
Yeah, I never did talk to any of them, though, except they'd come to our house and want a sandwich or something like that. Now, I can remember one lady, I remember who this was, but I don't say it was a hobo asked her for food, and she gave him a piece of cherry pie, and he didn't even eat it, he left it. And that was a big insult to her.
Must have been very good, huh?
Yeah, I know it.
That's pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, Mother used to warn us all about gypsies. Gypsies used to come out quite a bit, too.
Okay.
They were always dressed in real long dresses, and we'd hear stories about kidnapping kids and stuff like that, and we'd all have to be very careful when they came around.
Really? Your mother warned you of the gypsies?
Yeah.
What would they do? Did they have a place that they would set up? And
No, they just traveled through mostly, and they'd try to sell some old, they made chairs out of willow trees, real little willow stalks like that, you know. They make chairs out of them, they'd try to sell stuff like that. But they never did anything bad as far as I know. Except we were just scared when they come around.
you were the son, you were drafted into the Navy?
Yes.
Okay. And how long were you gone?
I went in December the 14th, and got out in May of 46.
46. Did you come right back home? Did you come back to this?
I came back here, and then I joined the Navy Reserve. And as soon as the Korean War started, I got the old orders come through the mail, report so-and-so, and here I was back again.
Had a lot changed while you were gone?
Yeah, I could tell everything was any more modern and everything. There had been several bad wrecks here at this crossing up here, and also at Rialto. Before they had gates or anything like that, there were several really bad wrecks. I can remember when the Arnolds and I were walking on this railroad track, and we saw a lot of people. We came up here this crossing, there was two guys from Middletown, and they were laying under the water. They'd got knocked out of their car into the water, and I was thinking somebody should raise them up out of the water, but they were killed anyway, you know. I thought they would just not be able to breathe, you know.
They were in the creek over here?
Yes. And they were from Middletown. I remember their last name for a long time, but I forgot it now and can't think of it. But that was really something to see, though. It was horrible to us. She's like killed, you know. Yeah. And another one down there. There have been several at Rialto, too. And two people that I know were coming. They were driving a Willis car. You remember them? Yeah, most people call it Willys. And they were driving it, and this friend was driving a car, the other, but both of them were in it. And they came along, and here a passenger train came flying by, and they ran into the train. And they turned the steering wheel the same way the train was going the last second. But it tore that car up. It was just torn in 1,000 pieces and never hurt either one of them. They got out. I mean, the car, you could pick up any part of it. It's a little piece like that. But they both walked away from it.
Oh, my goodness.
And the train stopped.
When would this have been?
That would have been that was before the war. That had been probably 1940 or something like that. And that was an exciting thing, too.
Do you remember when people started having radios in their homes?
Yes. We had a battery radio, and it's made out of glass, and you could see the whole radio inside of it. And it was like an automobile battery to power it. I remember that very well. Before we had electric, and I remember when they put electric in here, too. Everybody was naturally excited about that. Everybody was afraid that they would burn a house down or something.
Yeah. When was that? When would they brought electric in?
Well, I'm just going to guess, but I would say maybe 35 or something like that. And before that, nobody had electric.
And your radio, what do you guys listen to on the radio?
The Grand Ole Opry, and out in Nashville. It started up in 25, the same year I was born, and that was my favorite thing to listen to. And it was real hard to pick up, though, because for some reason, this area in Nashville, you know, the radios go by like that over the earth. And we were in a place where it was hard. It would come in real good for a few minutes and fade out completely, and then gradually come back in again. And around here we get stations good, like the BLW or something like that. On Saturday night, it was Nashville. Yeah.
And did everybody sit around the radio to listen together? And
Yes. Mm-hmm. And people, the neighbors would come, stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, everybody get as close to it as they could. And we used to listen to fights, too. That was another thing that was really excited me. It was back in the days of Joe Lewis. I remember every fight he had, and people would come from every place, and just, you wasn't allowed to talk, you had to listen to every word.
Do you remember any of the old radio shows that came from Cincinnati? Do you
Oh, yeah.
remember some of them?
Yeah. What was that lady's name? It always, she always raised a lot of money for charity and everything. Who?
Ruth Lyon?
Yes, I remember her real well. Mm-hmm. And that Ross, I think was his name. They had a whole bunch of them who worked together, and I can remember that very well. And they used to have in the radio, they used to have a lot of just amateurs. Anybody could get honored. Most of them were from Kentucky, and they'd play their guitars and sing. And they had a lot of them. Some, you know what? Oh, Sizemore was pretty famous around here. Little Jimmy Sizemore. They would just play guitar and sing those little songs from Kentucky and everything, you know.
Do you remember the cafe at the time? Was this a gathering spot? Did people come
This
to
place?
the cafe?
Oh, do I? They had the pavilion there. It was another building. I remember when they built that, they first started having dances. And then this place would have cars lined up parked on Saturday night. I mean, for a mile each way. It was nothing but solid cars. And they'd walk then up to here. And Bill Nusky, yeah, he had bands playing. And one of the Clemens boys was bouncer. He was real big. He was about 6'2". His name was Gordon Clemens, and he was the bouncer. He would throw all the people out. They started causing trouble in the dance hall over here. And he told me about one time he threw out a whole bunch of Italian guys, and he'd throw them out this door, and they'd come in another window or something.
Did people come to eat too, or?
It wasn't mainly. It was mainly just drinks and music and dancing.
Yeah.
And this union was pretty famous just for dances.
Were you old enough to attend dances at the time, or were you a kid looking?
Oh no, I was just a kid looking through the window. I used to enjoy that. I'd ride a bicycle or something.
Did people get all dressed up to come?
Yeah. Yeah. They always had a good band playing. Let's see, that's about all I can remember about it. I remember the owner of this place, though, was Bill Nusky. He had some fingers off of one hand, and he was, after beer came legal again, and some people used to accuse him of taking that one finger he had and stealing the change. I doubt if it's true.
How did he lose fingers? No? How did he lose his fingers?
No, I never did hear what he was in. But I remember he drove a Model T Ford, and he couldn't learn to drive anything else. And when they came out Model A's, he couldn't drive. They shift gear and all that stuff. He had to keep buying Model T's. That was all with your feet.
Did your family have a car?
Yes, I can remember the first, I remember we had a Willis Overland. It was convertible. They called it a Rambler or something like that. And I remember we started to go someplace. We never got out of Port Union until the wind caught under the roof, and just I can remember right along with the roof over, and it just blew back. And it scared me. Nothing but the sky then. We had to stop. And also at that time, everybody had flat tires. That was just common. Every time you went someplace, you had Dad carried tire patching equipment with him. You had to take and jack up the car, take a wheel off, take the tire off the rim. Nobody do it these days. I mean, the little hard, tough tires had these great big irons. You carry that with you too. All kinds of stuff like that. Take the inner tube out, sand it, put paste on it, and put the patch on. And that was just an everyday thing.
Were there bootleggers around here? Did you ever hear about people bootleggers?
Yeah, I remember we went to Indiana one time. He was supposed to be a bootleg. We never bought anything like that. We just knew them and went to their house, and they told about some of the people.
But you didn't hear about it in this immediate area?
Well, I heard talk about it because everybody, I mean, not everybody, but so many people made homemade beer, home brew, they call it. In fact, Dad made some home brew. And he'd put it in the basement to age, and during the night you'd hear the corks popping out of it when it gets too much pressure, you know.
Right, that's right.
And dandelion wine, people used to make wine out of dandelions, and blackberries, elderberries.
But they didn't worry about it in trouble?
I don't think so. I never heard of anybody getting even arrested for it.
Was it a big thing when beer came back?
Oh, was it? Yeah, it was really, yeah. That's what I was talking about. People, I heard all the numbers talking. I didn't know what beer was at the time, but I heard that every time they'd get together, they'd say, it's going to be legal this year. That's when Roosevelt was elected. That's what he said he was going to do when he was running for president, you know.
This is a big beer.
Oh, yeah, and I remember the WPA, they came around, and that was another big thing. There was hundreds of people. I'd walk up from where I lived here, there'd be all kinds of guys along the road with scythes, and had mowing grass, and they built toilets for people. The ground, yeah, we didn't cost much. That was one of their things they do.
In the outdoors or indoors?
Outdoor. Yeah.
toilets.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
And I can remember when the road, this road is gravel. All these roads are gravel. I can remember when they first paved it, put a tar down the old trucks.
Did WPA do that, or?
No, it was just the state, I think, and that. The WPA done everything else, though.
Well, we're about out of time.
Oh.
But thank you.
Glad to do it. I wish I could think of more stuff, but you made me remember a whole bunch of stuff. I forgot about the WPA and all that
I
kind of
keep
stuff.
calling Mary. We think that
Okay.
you have a number, or I give you my number.
Okay.
Do you have Mary's number?
No, I don't.
Okay, let me.
She has mine, though.
Well, that doesn't help if you remember something. I
No.
she won't be able to know.
Do you live around here, too? or-
Yes, I live in Westchester. I've only been here about 10 years.
Oh. Did you come from out of state?
No, actually, I grew up in Columbus.
Oh.
Yeah. But I'm here from Michigan.
Uh-huh.